Can a returning player endure Wartales in expert mode? I have plotted my comeback as I will attempt to climb up on the criminal ranks. Banditry is a tempting option, but I will follow a more sophisticated approach, taking inspiration from Mahatma Gandhi and the War of Salt. I will spread the great flavor famine through every town. Meanwhile, I will establish a successful warband and clear the first region, but those are side quests. We begin our adventures as caravan guards turned mercenaries, as our last employer, unfortunately, misplaced his head. And what would you desire to be good at if you ever decide to gather a band of mercenaries? Without a hint of a doubt, I would choose being incredible at slap games, which indeed will increase your critical damage. When I realized that the developers didn't implement this as a betting minigame in the tavern, I felt betrayed. Where are the slap games? It created a feeling of emptiness and despair, stealing the meaning from my decisions. What's the purpose of that background now? That hit me harder than when I found out that Diablo Immortal was a mobile game.
This, an out-of-season April Fool's joke.
I find satisfaction in the sense of progression and dominance when defeating lower level enemies, so this run will be region locked, where certain areas have a higher degree of difficulty. Having played Battle Brothers, mercenaries do not tend to die of old age. Just like cattle, it is better not to get very attached to anyone or you will get a slap. Emotional slap, of course. We are mercenaries now, we have vowed to never use violence, unless it's paid or convenient. Although witnessing my guy with a shield as massive as my credit card debt, I could not resist giving him a proper name, the Berlin Wall. On our first day we stumble upon some bandits. If there is something that you can expect while forming a mercenary band in medieval times, it's people lying on their resume. Our man Berthras said that he performs well under pressure. He may have lied, but you can be certain I will not be discussing his anger issues anytime soon. We reached the first town, a stinking mud-soaked village, and like most modern cities, it had a real estate problem. And sharing a house with 18 roommates was not an option in the Middle Ages. The neighboring region was at war. Desperate refugees were flooding the town.
Those refugees. I understand there's a war in Edoran, but that doesn't mean they can just help themselves.
I mean, they have to be pretty desperate, right? Since there is nothing to do here and free healthcare was not a thing in the Middle Ages. But we are not running a non-profit, so we wrapped our first mission, stocked on food, and left to kill some bandits. On our second day, we unlocked our first knowledge point, a system that allows your warband to grow stronger over time. And for a bunch of thieving mercenaries, unlocking the ability to run was a top priority, since it became clear that there is no ability to hide in this game. Since Lorinus The Rat, our first objective, was hidden like my little cousin when he was 3. He hid behind a glass door. We thought he had issues, but he surprised us when he achieved a wonderful career as a doctor. The Sims used to be a top-tier game. The bounty claimed it was an easy mission, yet as we cornered him, he became the White Wolf, putting on a show like Geraldine Blaviken. We followed the strategy of swarming them one by one, slowly but steady. Yet in his last stance, he almost demolished the Berlin Wall and beat everyone up. It was like talking to father after getting bad grades. There were too many emotions to get to day 3, and I was already reconsidering going for normal difficulty. We went back to town to claim our first reward. We barely broke even after healing and repairing the damage. Our first mission was a failure. We got our first recruit.
Adventure calls!
I did not realize he was club-footed during the hiring process, but I also didn't tell him that he will be feasting daily on raw food, so I guess we are even. As an act of good faith and to spread the word around, we marched to the rescue of some refugees that had gone hunting for food, and also found a woman in a sawmill who was obviously not hiding something.
I am terribly sorry, this is but a simple sawmill.
Leave me clues in the comments about how to do this mission, cause I have no idea. It's day 4 and this crazy son of a gun decided to climb Mount Everest to hunt for some food. As you can see, they were prepared. I could not convince them, so yes, they probably died horribly getting devoured. While business is business, it was time to go back to town when we found our local farmers. It seems they were busy hanging a thief. And don't get me wrong, I love learning and experiencing the local traditions when I travel. I respect them, but I have some salaries to pay, so we left for the town. As most bosses would say, we're family and time is money, so we unlock endurance training, getting a 5% warm-up speed boost. Also, one of the companions got a severe case of explosive gastroenteritis, hinting that my delicious menu of raw meat was not a balanced diet. Like a flashback to college times, it just happened that I didn't know how to cook, and there are no instant noodles. So I did what any sensible doctor would do. I threw him an apple and carried him into the fight, and surprisingly, it worked. He seemed to be in a hurry to finish things off, and got a bit hyped up again despite his stomach inconveniences. He performed better than ever. Now, this is not medical advice, so go to see a real doctor if you suffer from gastroenteritis. On day 7, we found Captain Roband in a guard outpost. It seems a bandit was being sieged in a mine.
To think that we have to camp out here because of some pig-headed bandit.
Seeing that the level of my finances was equal to my YouTube revenue, non-existent, I am not in any shape to decline an easy job. They tried to talk me out of killing them, but have you tried to keep a pony alive feeding him apples? Siding with the stronger side seemed like the best business choice. I made a massive mistake, and Bertras almost died an agonizing death, getting crushed by rocks. Lucky the Berlin Wall finished the fight, sinking his axe in the bandit's neck. I was feeling quite upset thinking that they may have been innocent. I mean, you never know what they hide. But feeling awful, I went back to town and gave bread to the homeless to compensate.
Please, can you spare some food?
At this point, I thought we were holding some favor with the local population. I started to feel bad about Bertra's gastroenteritis, so we rented some medicine from the local alchemist. The guards did not take that well. During day 9 and 10, our band defeated some bandits and some wild boars, which was a blessing since we had just enough money and food to get by. Sadly, my CPU was also defeated while working harder than my office coffee maker on Monday. At day 11, we went out for a mission. The lads were talking about how they were waiting for the next update of Phasmophobia. So we decided to camp next to a fog cloud with ghost hounds. Surprisingly, no one questioned my camping decisions, and we killed yet another bandit group in the morning. As a leader of a mercenary band, I felt concerned about the work-life balance of my warriors. Since I could not do pizza day at the office and I was not about to raise salaries, I had to find another solution. I took them to a fishing trip. As I was about to research the whip, Old Man Theodral explained how happy he was. That moment deeply moved my heart. For a second, and the next I was moving our party to fight deserters in a mine, as they got crushed by rocks. I called it a 10 out of 10 day. Sadly, Theodral got injured and condemned to limp for the next days, since medicine was surprisingly expensive back in the day. On day 14 we found Christina Lund, but I already made a video 2 years ago when the early access started, and I am not about to visit that old madman again. We ran back as soon as we achieved our mission. The blacksmith from Storecap told me that he was hiring, and during day 15 and 16, our adventure took us to find a refugee. As a plot twist that could have come from the writers of the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, he was actually a blacksmith. I used all my computing power to connect the dots, and we escorted him to town avoiding the patrols. When he got there, the working conditions were not as posted. They did not include the salary, but had I known that he would be working as an intern, I would have made him a favor by handing him to the authorities. At least in jail he could afford food. I will avoid eye contact with him from now on. That day we also stole some oils and also hired Santha, our first archer.
I want to see the world before settling down.
He was not as good with the bow as promised, but that will be revealed soon. Looking back, the next days were spent messing around. We stole some oils from the town, went fishing and mining, while experiencing the deep chasing mechanics from the authorities, which revolve around hitting the shift key until they give up. As polished as the police from early cyberpunk, but good for our crime business. We reached the mountains by day 19, cleaned out Altis Tower, and Tyrion was starting to steal Berthra's MVP spot. He was talking non-stop at the camp about how he was developing chronic back pain from carrying the party. But just like many self-made 20-year-old entrepreneurs, we were spoiling him with gear. Our troop did not take that well, and they may have or have not convinced the newbie to stick an arrow to his back during a hunt on day 20. He almost got the Robert Baratheon treatment, but with less drinks and women. I mean, my camp is pretty nice, but you get the difference. We also finally found the refugee leader. He was hiding in the mountains and hired us to check on the woodcutter's camp.
My name is Fergus. It seems you have chosen to support the citizens of Tiltron rather than our cause. We've set up a woodcutter camp to the north.
I accepted the mission, but ran the other way since he was only offering his wood, and as the single father of 7 mercenaries, I'm not falling for that trick again. That's when I came with an amazing plan. I was struggling to pay and feed so many mouths, but I remember a way that could finally solve my financial problems and allow me to add new party members to my warband, a new business venture partnered with the local government. I headed to jail to buy some change, since I was in need of acquiring human capital. After looking through some resumes in town, we found some volunteers at the south. We went there to help them relocate to their new working station. Also, I thought about raiding a bandit camp, but I didn't want to get brutally murdered yet. I turned in our volunteers the next day, making great profit. Finally, we could pay for our first berserker to join the party. I read that they are great damage dealers. And we resume our evil crime lord career by stealing all the salt in town. Since Tyrion was still complaining about that arrow on the back, I decided to craft him a shield. After paying the berserker to join our merry group, I decided that maybe recruiting prisoners would be a cheaper way to hunt for talents.
From this day forth, we will protect the tombs with our lives.
That's how we met Befry and Ostakon. They will stay with us for a while. Just as if the gods of luck were in our favor and decided to solve our money issues, we got ambushed at night by some bandits just inside of the prison. It was the most profitable raid ever. I did hope to have finished the first region by now, so here are the excuses. It was my first playthrough in 2 years and I lost quite a bit of time relearning the game. Do you know how many times I was running in circles escaping from the authorities? Feel free to leave some tips on the comments and I hope you were entertained.